Hey families, this is Mr. Panza. I just wanted to send home a video because whether we do or do not have school based on weather, I still plan on giving an assessment coming up in the next couple of days in social studies, and I want to make sure your students feel totally prepared. We've made it through the entire content. However, today, instead of doing the review, the students are working on a project. So I wanted to send this video home so they could still review for any assessment, which they should really feel comfortable with anyway because it's not that much information. It's just 2 pages from the book. So I think it'll be an opportunity for them to really show what they know, and this video is certainly going to help them out. Our major questions in social studies over the last week have been how people travel, and then specifically the answer to that question this week has been sea travel and what are the benefits of sea travel. Really, we've talked about how it helps them get there faster, which ultimately helps them make more money, but there's a lot more to it than that as well. So I'm going to go over the questions with you today from our review game, which typically we would play together, but based on some of the weather, we'll see what happens. Normally be it Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, of course I'm hosting, and show them what the prizes are, 13 questions, and sometimes we have to phone a friend or ask the audience. Our first question is, what's the southern tip of Africa called? Slavery, a caravel, prophet, or the Cape of Good Hope? The answer? The Cape of Good Hope. It was named by one of the explorers from Portugal, and we'll get to them in just a couple of minutes, who reached the Cape of Good Hope and determined that they knew they could eventually make it to Asia, and eventually they hit India, by going south towards the Cape of Good Hope and then eventually coming back up north. Question 2. A type of ship with sails that could sail into the wind. Is that a compass, caravel, navigation, or astrolabe? It certainly helps with navigation, and so does compass, but the answer is the caravel. Caravel sail is a triangular sail that was the first type of sail that let people that were exploring sail into the wind. Third question for 500. People who were bought and sold that were forced to work without pay, was that known as slavery, an employee, a sailor, or workers' compensation? They may not know this one, you may, but the answer is slavery, A. And we talked all about the cruel system and how the Portuguese explorers actually expanded slavery based on what they were doing. They were traveling all around the southern tip as well as through Africa, and what they were doing was they were picking up these individuals and forcing them into this cruel system, which expanded slavery at its time. $1,000 question. Money left over after all expenses have been paid. Is that a surplus, slavery, debt, or profit? Surplus is what you have when you have additional money, but the profit is what you actually make after you've paid off all of your debts. 2,000. This is an individual who created a school for navigation. Was it Marco Polo, Vasco da Gama, Prince Henry, or Bartholomew Diaz? Polo was really an explorer from Italy, Europe, not known for a navigation school. Da Gama and Diaz were the Portuguese explorers that we really studied, but it was Prince Henry that they called Prince Henry the Navigator. Even though he didn't take any voyages himself, he had a navigation school which helped a lot of explorers. $4,000 question. He proved that it was possible to sail around Africa and reach Asia. So it's either going to be Da Gama or Diaz. Those are the 2 Portuguese explorers that were trying to make this possible. I told the students that, remember, Diaz has a shorter last name, which means he made the shorter trip. He didn't actually make the trip to Asia, but he proved that it could actually happen. His shorter last name triggers them into he had the shorter trip, getting to the southern tip of Africa and stopping there, which means the person that actually made the first successful trip to Portugal, or from Portugal to India, I should say, would be the other Portuguese explorer, Vasco da Gama. Which country found the sea route to Asia? Well, I've been talking about it a lot. We're talking about Portugal. A few more questions here, and I'm rolling through these quickly, but just a reminder, you can always pause videos, go back, maybe have students look things up if they brought the book home. That's the benefits of the video. Why was the caravel sail an improvement in sailing? Was it faster, you could fit more on it? Was it that you could sail into the wind, or it helped with direction? It was because that you could actually sail into the wind, which, if you remember, we discussed a little while ago in a few questions. What continent is Portugal located on? So remember, when I'm talking about a continent, I'm talking about areas like North America. Some of the times we get countries and continents confused. So in this case, we shouldn't be saying Portugal is a continent because the actual continent it was on is Europe. $125,000 question. Which continent did the enslaved individuals come from? Africa, Europe, India, or Asia? Africa. And you can remember that because Portugal is north of Africa, and they were the country that sailed south around Africa to eventually try and reach Asia. $250,000. Why did explorers take a sea route to Asia? To get away from slavery, to make more money because it was faster, to pick up slaves? Really to make more money. You could make the argument that it was faster as well, but because it was faster, they would make more money. And the final question, how was traveling the Silk Road different from traveling by sea? Was it faster, shorter, easier, or less dangerous? A and D, it made it faster, and it was less dangerous. It wasn't shorter, it wasn't necessarily easier, but you didn't have people that were robbing you of the goods when you were traveling back by foot. So hopefully, you got a lot of these right. If not, go back, rewatch the video, and check it out again. Thanks again for your help and your support throughout. Thanks again for your help and support throughout the year. This will certainly help on the assessment coming up, whether we have weather or not.